And so 6 years ago, we were going through a strat plan. I just joined the board as chair, and we realized the same things that all of you have in this room, which is the world, as we call it, is VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And in struggling with that, we realized that we needed to do what you are all trying to do, which is engage new audiences. And then when we looked around at the boardroom table, what we saw was a boardroom full of trustees at the McMichael that looked very much like very much like the audiences of the past, as opposed to the prospective audiences we needed to engage. And so then I asked around at the Canadian Arts Summit and elsewhere about programs where we could bring the next generation of leaders to the boardroom, because in terms of answering your question, Dennis, what do I think is missing, in addition to what my colleagues have said here, is tone at the top and board commitment. Yeah. So after asking around, we found nothing out there that allowed us to actually move forward with bringing the next generation of arts leaders to the boardroom. So we created our own. We created what we call a Directors in Training program. The Directors in Training program had 3 key objectives. It was to add diversity to the boardroom discussion. It was to provide valuable, I'm going to call it guidance, mentorship to the next generation of arts leaders. It was actually to engage a new community who could then engage the audiences that we wanted to engage. And we wanted to create a feeder system for people to come and join our board. Now we've got a couple challenges. The challenges are that we are an agency of the Government of Ontario, which means they approve all of our appointments. So we had that challenge. We've got a fundraising board, and we've got challenges related to our traditional recruitment processes. When we looked at those recruitment processes, here's what we found. The questions we were asking to people who were interested in joining the Board of Trustees were things like, do you have previous board experience? Do you have money or contacts or could bring money to the organization? Do you have a 10, 15, 20-year track record of success and functional expertise you can bring to the boardroom table? And the answer, surprisingly, for people who are 30 or 35 years old was, in most cases, no. And so we were excluding with our structured recruitment processes the very people we wanted to come to our boardroom and provide a meaningful voice. Let me fast forward. So we implemented the program. We got buy-in at our board level in May 2011. That's 5 years ago. And we've had 4 people come through the program so far. But the type of people we've had are people who are in that profile of very, very strong professionally or from their qualifications in that age bracket, passion, commitment, engagement with the arts or cultural sector, some track record of success, and future leadership potential. So we implemented the program, we went through, and we have done a number of things, but rather than hear from me, what I think the benefits of that program were, I asked Meegan to come because Meegan's one of the people that have gone through that program. Because I can brag about it all I want, but the proof of the pudding is really in how inspiring and motivating and engaging the future leaders. I'm going to turn it over to Meegan to give us a sense of her experience in going through that program.
Thank you, Upkar. And hello, everybody. I have to first say that I'm here because of the great leaders at the McMichael to acknowledge that this is one of the things that was missing. So I appreciate that opportunity. And I'll share some of the lessons learned from my 3 years in this program so far. The idea of what's essential in leadership is what this program is based upon, and that's the idea of it being mutually beneficial. I think there's a lot of power in that. And it's on the wall in the other room where we grab coffee of the give and get. That's the sense, like, what does the individual that you're developing, what do they get out of this? What are they able to give back to the organization? Because I think that ensures that it's a win-win situation. And so that's actually the foundation of this program. And then the what's missing thing's a pretty easy answer for me, more of these directors in training programs. And when I was, so about 5 years ago when this was starting to be created, I was 10 years into my career. I wanted to give back. I felt like I've built a decent set of skills. I've had a good network. I wanted to expose myself to other perspectives because I know that only adds value to the day job. But I actually struggled finding something that fit. So I found there was organizations that wanted my time, but I was really overqualified. And I'm not being on my high horse, but I wanted to give more than time. I wanted to give my skills. I wanted to feel like I was making an impact. And for those organizations, that potentially needed some of my skills, I was underqualified. And I didn't have enough skills, and I hadn't been in the workforce long enough. But then this program came up, and it was a really perfect fit, and it helped me bridge that. And then so again, as Upkar said, one of the members of the first class, there was 3 of us. And the lessons learned as we're recruiting the next class to come in is the importance of a program champion. And Upkar was that for us. He had the vision and the passion to get this started, as well as all the other trustees who really supported this. It keeps, a champion's important because great ideas, you have them and then they fall flat. So it's like, how do you keep this front and center on the radar and celebrating the successes and the achievement of this group? So that's really important. And knowing that Upkar was stepping down from this position, we have a succession plan to ensure that there will be a program champion going forward. And that program champion is also responsible for, as we recruit these individuals, to match their skills and leverage those skills appropriately to have the biggest impact for the organization. So program champion. The other is the participants need guidance, and not in a way of hold their hand kind of guidance, but they need to be mentored and they need some on-the-ground learning, because the board world's a bit different than what I was used to. I've worked for organizations with boards, but being a part of it and understanding what the etiquette is, what the governance is, historical perspective, that's a really important part of leadership development to ensure that you're creating a very valuable asset for the board long term. So ensuring that there is that guidance. We have, one of our lessons learned is we're setting up a mentoring program. So it'll be a rotating program annually, that there'll be a director in training is matched with one of the trustees. And so that mentorship can have various elements to it. It can be learning about board governance, but it also can be just learning from another great leader, which is quite exciting. And then another thing that is really important is the solid infrastructure. And so again, you have a great idea, you put it out there. If you don't have infrastructure around it, it might not get too far. So have some clear roles and responsibilities. What do you want these directors in training to do? For us, the director in training is a member of the board. They just don't have voting rights. So we're participating on committees, but it's structured so one of the committees is where I have my skills can add value. The other one is complete learning, where I have interest. And so that's one of the elements for the infrastructure. We're also now have it embedded in the board reports. So quarterly, the directors in training are reporting to the board. So there's an accountability factor. So making sure that that's all a part of it's really important for its success. And the last thing I'll just say is that it's replicable. So if you guys think, oh, this would be great, I'd love to have something like this, it can happen. I mean, this is a guide a template that was created for McMichael, but it really is something that can work within any other organization.
It has to be a win-win. We pay sometimes lip service to bringing people on and then not really giving them the opportunity and creating the environment for them to succeed. It actually can't be one individual. Research, I'm sure my colleagues will tell me that if you're bringing in women, visible minorities, or anyone from an outside group, it has to be at least 3 people for them to feel part of the inside group versus the outside group. We have to take the long-term view. The next one is start slowly, choose carefully, and ultimately your best sales pitch will be the people that graduate through the program. Convert it from a top-down. So what we've done is we've taken a build, operate, transfer model. The changes that we're making were based on me going to Meegan and saying, it's been 5 years, I want you to tell me how can we improve it, then I want you to take ownership of it. So we built it, we've operated for 5 years, and we've transferred, or as I think Emily said this morning, we've empowered the people who are benefiting from that program to run with it so that they feel a sense of ownership and accountability. And then the last thing I would just say is that I think that if we don't start with getting the message into the boardroom, all or a lot of our other initiatives do not really get traction or take hold, because it's a commitment on our part for diversity and for bringing in different voices, which means there needs to be a change in attitude at the top. We believe, or I believe, that having a connection to what the organization does is the single biggest driver of engagement and participation. And even in regular trustees, not just directors in training, the level of disengagement is often a lack of attachment to the mission. And so now, just to reinforce that, we start all our board meetings with an art presentation, because that's what we're about. We're the art of Canada. And so we tie people back to that core mission of why we exist.
I would just add that, you can look at someone's resume when you're recruiting talent to the board. A resume doesn't speak to one's affinity. So I'm an amateur artist, really, 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 really amateur, and studied at a university. But my healthcare is my day job. And so there was just, the mutually beneficial thing for me that I'm taking is being able to get back into the arts. And the current people that my other colleagues are in telecom and financial industries as a part of the DIT program, they have their own reasons why they have an affinity. And the current people we're recruiting, one's actually in nonprofit sector right now, and another does executive search. But what they do outside of their day job is amazing, and how they're collaborating and how they're getting at people really mobilized that's where there's a lot of value. So